Hey y'all, it's your girl J Arius, the Aquarius. So in this video, story time, different kind of video. Um, Stay tuned though. Disclaimer, I'm not judging anybody. I'm not looking for sympathy. I'm actually just trying to open up a safe place, kind of like a safe vessel for people who have, succumbed to these kind of things, have been put into situations where, they've been hypersexualized, oversexualized, because speaking from personal experience, I have been that way like since I was 3 because of something that unfortunately happened to me when I was 3. So my whole life has been sex has been a theme in my whole life, and I knew what it was at a young age and all that stuff. And if you come across this video, maybe you're watching it because maybe there's somebody around you that is going through something similar. But basically, unfortunately, tragedy happened to me when I was 3 years old, okay? And, that followed me throughout my whole childhood into my adulthood until when I turned, speaking until like I turned 18, I had aged out of foster care. Sorry, I'm gonna try to say this in the most clear way, but I know that there's some things in between that are not going to let me get this out. They're not going to want me to get this out, but I'm going to get this out anyways because I feel like someone needs to hear this out there. That if you've ever been, or like let's say you reference yourself as a tantric goddess, that's beautiful. There has been this kind of distortion around what tantric means. Tantric is not just about sex. It can mean sex. You know what I'm saying? You could definitely have really potent sexual energy if you consider yourself a tantric goddess. Don't get it wrong. But let's go back into history. About 25,000 years ago, probably before the Phoenician times, there was these Christic divine feminine beings that were seated all across the land. And they were like mostly in groups, but they were oracle. They were the high priestesses. You know what I'm saying? They were very connected to the Christic family, to where they could reproduce without a mate because they were in such divine union with the Christic family, the Christos. They were able to have a baby without that. And I know some of y'all are probably going to click off right now and be like, what the hell? But I had just got a reading from Becca B. Her thing is soul-based life. And this made so much sense, and this connected the dots for me in my life because what happened to me back then, like 25,000 years ago, it's happening parallel to now. So it's so important for me to talk about this. And I know someone out there probably can relate to this and probably was one of these oracles out there. But there's been this distortion around prostitution since then. They rounded up these oracles because when the higher like let's say the elite Syrians, when the elite Anunnaki and all them people, they were in charge of, like you think of like Egypt and Greece and Rome, all of them leaders and dictators. They knew that if there was going to be somebody that was going to bring the new Messiah onto the earth, that was going to stop their bullshit, it was going to be one of these women. It was going to come through one of these women. So they had to round these women up, and they put them in these temples. And then they gloss over these temples. Oh, this is the temple of Aphrodite. This is the temple of Venus. So this is honestly why, me personally, I do study astrology. But do I worship gods and goddesses? No, 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 no. Do I call upon them? No, 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 no. Because I feel like at the end of the day, we all are all god and goddesses within ourselves. We already we've been one, we're there, it's happening. We're working towards that. And I feel like the god goddesses, the king and queen, that's part of that inferior superior complex. That's part of the whole reason why certain things are still running like how they're running. But that's just my experience. If you work with god and goddesses and they've helped you, that's awesome, and that works for you, that's great. And I'm also not coming for anybody who considers themselves pagan. I get it. At one point, I did. Like, I tried to work with Bastet, and I ended up getting a lot of cats at my house, so, like, I understand that stuff is real. But I just want to say, use your discernment. Is this really who you want to give your energy to? Because, yes, they have been demonized, like, Lilith has. A lot of the divine feminine beings have been demonized. But I just can't help but think of the story of Miss Athena, right? And how Miss Medusa was one of her greatest high priestess, her most devoted high priestess. She was so beautiful. She was an oracle. And yeah, back to the tantric before I get on to the Medusa story. Tantric means you're an oracle. By dancing, art, it's raw, creative, sexual expression, raw, creative expression. It don't have to be just sexual. It can be through art, dancing. So like these oracle women, they would go through on the land. We literally dance. We would just dance. And as we were dancing and singing and humming, we were helping the grid. We were doing grid work. Okay? And these other beings, they realized that. And again, they saw us as a threat. They saw us as a threat because they weren't following the Christic teachings, right? They had fell. So they rounded us up into these temples. And then that's when they, the oldest profession in the world, prostitution, became a thing. You know what I'm saying? So would it not make sense, like if that happened to me in that past life, that in this past life, if I've not healed that, right, that when I was 18, I would have became an escort. Because, when I was younger, I was very hypersexualized, over-sexualized, because a tragedy happened to me when I was 3 years old. And it was something, again, trauma does store in your body, and you think that you're going to repress it, you're going to be able to run from it, you're going to run from it. No. Face those challenges head on, so the cycle can end with you. That's part of being a generational curse breaker. That's part of being a generational curse cycle breaker. Stopping the karmic pattern is realizing it, facing it head on, like, okay, this is what I've been a victim to, but I no longer am going to be a victim to that. You need to do some soul retrieval, because that's so important, and you want to remove those implants that you could have possibly been placed. Like, I realized that I had the SRA implant. Just recently, I had this removed from my auric field, and I'm thinking, like, satanic. Like, none of my family is Satanist. Hold on. When I go back in my tree, my family tree, I can trace my mom's side back to the kings and queens of Scotland, and I'm saying, you got to remember, the kings and queens, people who want to be of authority, people who feel like they should be the leader, people who feel like, they have that ego to where they feel like they need to be worshipped. They should be questioned, because are they in Christ consciousness? Are they about unity? Are they really about us being in unity, or us being in unity and them being at the top? That's a difference. But anyways, I want to talk about Medusa, because I know this is weird, but I feel like Medusa has came to me. Because, I dreamt about her last night. And I had her come to my thoughts like a week before I had gotten this reading, about when I realized that, I was kind of like Medusa in one of my lifetimes. You know what I'm saying? But I want to speak some truth for Medusa, because I feel like she obviously has been demonized. Her story was flipped and turned, and she was like slapped in the face for just thinking that she was doing the right thing by worshiping Athena and giving her life to this god, this goddess, right? So some of you guys may be familiar of the story. Some of you guys are not. I'm just going to do like a quick run through of it. But basically, Medusa was a very beautiful, highly respected, very devoted high priestess of Athena, the goddess of war, in Greek and Roman days. And Poseidon was, I'm pretty sure Poseidon was Athena's brother, but Athena liked Poseidon, something like that. Just weird Anunnaki reptilian. Okay, if you're Anunnaki, if you're reptilian starseed, and if you've chose the Christ consciousness teachings, good for you. I'm not speaking about all the reptilians. I'm not trying to spread racism. But the negative draconian reptilian Anunnaki races, yes, that came here and tried to colonize us and distort us, I'm talking about them. Athena and Poseidon were part of that. They were a part of that bloodline, part of that collective. Okay? So Athena, enraged because her brother had sex with Medusa, instead of being like, oh my god, my girl Medusa, the one who has done so much for me, has devoted her life to me, just got raped. And instead of being, showing compassion and sympathizing with her, she chose to curse her, to cast her out, give her hair of snakes. So when people would look at her, they'd instantly turn to stone, because Athena was jealous. Do you know what I mean? And So this kind of video is a little bit all over the place. Like, I'm debunking the tantric stuff, I'm debunking the sacred prostitution thing. I'm not saying that, like, if you're out there and you do sex work and you're a healer and you're doing that, um, I'm not saying that that's bad or anything. I think you know pretty well that that's not bad. It heals people, right? But it's so important for you to protect yourself out there and understand that there's these things called soul ties, cords. Um, there's a reason why sex magic, tantric magic is so popular, because it is a very potent kind of energy transference, a way to like manifest things, whether you're aware of it or not aware of it. It's a very potent way to get things done. It is. And there is some of us out there that, who are connected to the old divine feminine mother archetype that do have that have been villainized, have been casted out. We've been oracles, we've been high priestess in multiple lifetimes, and we've been victimized by witch hunts. You know what I'm saying? If you hear witch hunts, let's say if you have gotten into the Salem witch trials and you're on this spiritual journey, that might be a huge nod towards you were at one point a victim to a witch hunt. You know what I'm saying? And it don't even have to be so extreme as you getting hanged and burned at the stake during the Salem witch trials. It could have literally just been like, again, you were some oracle high priestess, seated by the Christic race, and then you were rounded up and told, like, and they knew that you had your sexual energy was very potent and magical and healing, but they distorted it. That's what I'm saying. That's kind of what I'm getting at with this. So whoever this resonates with, leave a like, a comment. If you want to vent, if you've been down the road of escorting, I have also done that. About 5 years ago, I was on the same journey. You probably have some very sexual, potent energy. Do you understand what I mean? But it's maybe getting used against you. It's being siphoned from you. It's maybe causing you to get into more entanglements than actually free you and heal you. And I'm just beginning on this journey, but I thought that was so interesting because my whole life, I'm not gonna lie, like, I was young and I knew things that I shouldn't have known about. But when I had turned 16, everything had started to come back to me. I started to get flashbacks of me being like 3. You know what I'm saying? And it all made sense to me. It just made sense to me. You know what I'm saying? If let's say you see a young person and you see that they know too much for their age, maybe it's time to like sit down, ask them questions instead of sitting there and slut shaming them, making them feel disgusting. Do you know what I'm saying? Because you're just feeding into that whole thing of like the dogmatic Christianity that sex is bad, you should only be married, things like that. Like, yeah, you can look at that way. It's not a bad way to look at that way. Like, you want to share your body with someone you're married with, and they push that, but really what that means is like you want to share your body with someone that you really trust and you're fine with enmeshing yourself with. Because you think about, that's what marriage is. It's a physical enmeshment of like your property, your money, the things you own, your body, sexually, physically, spiritually. And that's why a divorce is so hard for people, because it's not just like a physical paper divorce. It's, especially if you really were entangled and loved with, and you loved this person and there was cords and ties, it's going to be a messy divorce. You know what I'm saying? But I just want to say that I'm here. I'm that shoulder you can cry on. I know I'm not physically there, but I do have an Instagram. You can always DM me. We can always keep it private between me and you if you want to talk. I have had some experiences. If you're currently like walking down this line, you know what I'm saying? If you're currently doing this, let's say this is how you provide for your family. And no, I'm not hoe slamming, I'm not slut shaming, because that would be me only feeding into their sacred prostitution bullshit. Do you understand what I mean? That whole thing, like, sacred prostitution, sell your sex, sell yourself, right? Sell yourself. Because you could be sacred, very sacred, and you may more likely be a prostitute, an escort, what you're doing, right? But is it very sacred to give your energy away to ones that are just wanting to feed off of it, that need it for their manifestations? Is it getting in the way from you living the life that you want? Do you know what I'm saying? So if you consider yourself like a a tantric worker, things like that. Maybe it's not just about sex. You know what I'm saying? Maybe, you would do really good and get off, be happy with dancing, singing, literally just going outside and like dancing, like, putting your headphones in, just dancing, and then just, putting the attention in your mind that you're doing grid work. You're helping out um, the earth and its, Terra, Mother Gaia's consciousness while she's ascending. That's very potent. So I'm just going to say this now. There is definitely beings out there, people out there that have sexual potent energy, that are tantric goddesses, that are. You know what I'm saying? But it's just like, you want to protect yourself. You want to understand like what you're doing really with yourself, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. And you want to protect yourself, like shield yourself. So like if this is something that you've been doing, you know what I'm saying? Again, I'm not hating it. Get it how you live it, boo. Really, get it how you live it. Just protect yourself. Honor yourself a little bit more, because I know, me speaking from personal experience, when I did the escorting, it was more of like, I needed some quick money. You know what I'm saying? I was like, the grass must be greener on the other side because I fucking hate it here. You know what I'm saying? I was like, I'll do anything. Literally, that's what I was at. I had a low self-esteem. I had a fucked up concept around getting money. I was raised in poverty. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I get it. I get it. You're doing what you got to do for your family. You're doing what you know how to do. You're doing what what you're used to, you're comfortable with. And for some people, it's way more intense than that. It's not just a one-time thing that's happened to me. People have lived and, sadly gone through this their whole childhood. And I think it's time that we start speaking up. That Me Too movement, I was all for that when people were coming up and speaking about their sexual trauma, because this needs to be heard. It needs to be heard. It needs to be talked about. This might not be like a well-received video, but the thing is I'm not doing it for likes or content. I'm not doing this for, obviously I told you, if this resonate, like, share, or, comment, because I want to see if it's resonating. You know what I'm saying? Because I know 7 billion people out there. I can't be just the only one that has gone through something like this, and it's basically because of some past life that I have not healed, that I'm healing while speaking to you and giving you this transmission. So that was really deep for me, and that was really icky, and I'm sorry. That made me feel really heavy and intense. And I feel like when we look at Medusa, if you're an astrologer, if you're someone who's into the algol, I did a fixed star reading on the algol fixed star, and it's really heavily corresponded to Medusa, and I think I really got to redo that video. I got to rewatch and see what I said in that video, but a lot of those traits are true. But when you're reading the algol fixed star, just don't forget to make sure you let them know that they could have been succumbed to some kind of sacrifice. They could have been some kind of scapegoat. You know what I'm saying? You see algol fixed star and you think, oh, this person is probably going to be drinking. There's some kind of violence coming around towards them. They're probably promiscuous. Da-da-da-da-da. No. How about you look at it this way? Maybe they are just succumbing to an unfortunate predisposition to their life, to something that they devoted themselves to, and they've gotten, knocked off their feet. So I'm done rambling, and I'm sorry if you guys saw my hairy armpits, but this is me being real and honest. I love you guys. I gotta go to work after this. I'm sending absolute healing, omni love, to all my sisters and brothers out there. I see you, I hear you, I see you, and I hear you. I don't think you're filthy. You may feel filthy because you may need an energetic cleanse because of the kind of work that you are pursuing. But shield yourself up. Understand your power. You know what I'm saying? Because sex is another great way they take away power. You just got to think about with the SRA, what they're doing to these little kids. It's fucked up. It's fucked up. So yeah, maybe no, you're not the one who's doing it, but you've got to clear that from your field. So when you have babies, that doesn't end up popping up in your field. So yeah, maybe it starts with you, but you know how sometimes your parents didn't do it, but then all of a sudden your parents are like, oh, you're acting like my mom. You know what I'm saying? It could skip a generation. So It starts with you. It begins with you. Okay? So I'm sorry if this was all over the place. I love you guys so much. And I know this is a lot to take in, but there has been a distortion around the sacred prostitute, the tantric goddess. Let me just say that, the divine tantric goddess. You could be a divine tantric goddess and not just be into sex work. You could be your raw creative expression. So whether that, so be it, you painting, you drawing, and just with the intention in your head, I'm healing the world. Like, all you got to do is create. You know what I'm saying? And you're healing. And that's awesome. And it's so beautiful. And not everybody can say that. You know what I'm saying? And just remember, you're a divine goddess and a divine god. Because I know this is not just a woman's work. Yes, it was the divine feminine that got distorted. But if you go back and you look up about the concubines of Rome and stuff, they were mostly males. So this is not just a female thing. Okay? And I know from my experience, I was a divine feminine experiencing, but I'm speaking for all the humans out there now. Respect yourself. Use your potent creative sexual energy, right? That raw creative energy you got in you to heal the earth, heal the grid. And you could be healing healing the earth, you could be doing that by, your sessions with people, you're healing them, yes. And then if that's the case, then you just really want to learn how to protect yourself and shield yourself, how to delete and dissolve cords from your aura field so you're not living out timelines that are not yours. And I'm gonna say one last story before I end this video, but so I have an example of this. Back 5 years ago when I was in the mess, I slept with this guy or whatever, and about 3 years later, he's totally out of my life. And I swear it was almost like I was plugged into his dreams, because I was having dreams from his perception of him missing his ex-wife, because he would always talk about his ex-wife to me. So I'm hell no, I'm totally I'm totally in this dude's head right now, in someone's head right now, listening to them dream about their ex-wife. No. That means I just had to cut them cords. You know what I'm saying? Because I hadn't been around him for a while, and I'm I don't even care about your ex-wife. I don't see her in my algorithm. I don't see her in my reality. But that's just an example of the leftover residue that you need to clear. So again, if you are doing tantric work, you're not bad. You're not filthy. In a sense, your overall self-concept is not filthy, no. But you may need to clear your chakra system. Your energy system, your auric field, just for your prosperity. Because, you do have some sacred, potent, creative energy that can be used not only just for sex, but, just to heal the grid system, heal others through, being your raw, creative self. Yeah, I love you guys.